It all began with a necklace. Not just any necklace, but one that Shu Kai had quietly chosen, wrapped, and slipped into Tan Songyun's hands during a night when the world outside seemed too loud, and only their private laughter mattered. The gift was simple yet timeless, a silver chain with a delicate pendant, carved into the shape of a crescent moon. To anyone else, it might have been just a piece of jewelry. But to them, it carried weight. It was a silent confession, a marker of something unspoken between two people who had mastered the art of hiding their feelings beneath the bright lights of fame. For weeks, Tan Songyun wore it quietly. Not during official appearances, not when the cameras flashed, but in moments of privacy. Neighbors swore they caught glimpses of it when she returned home late at night, its faint shimmer glistening under the street lamps. Staff members whispered about seeing it around her neck on set, only for her to quickly tuck it beneath her collar whenever someone noticed. And then, one day, it was gone. The absence was small but devastating. Songyun felt it first, her hand instinctively reaching for the chain at her throat only to find it missing. She searched her home, retraced her steps, even questioned whether she had misplaced it in a dressing room or hotel suite. But the necklace had vanished, as though it had dissolved into thin air. What neither she nor Shu Kai expected was how its disappearance would set off a chain of events so wild, so tangled, that even those closest to them couldn't believe what they were witnessing. The first whispers began on set. Songyun's assistant noticed her pacing, clutching her phone late at night, sending messages that were more urgent than her usual cheerful chatter. Shu Kai, who had been filming in another city, received one such message: "It's gone." Just 2 words, but enough to make his chest tighten. Without hesitation, Shu Kai boarded a late-night train. He arrived in her city the next morning, cap pulled low, mask covering half his face, blending with the shadows as though he were just another traveler lost in the crowd. Those who saw him that day could never have guessed that he wasn't there for work, not for any schedule, but for something far more personal. When he reached her apartment, the scene was already surreal. Songyun's living room was turned upside down, drawers pulled open, cushions tossed aside, even bookshelves half-emptied. She stood in the middle of the chaos, her eyes shimmering with frustration. "I've checked everywhere," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It's like it disappeared on its own." Shu Kai didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face before taking her trembling hands into his. "Then we'll find it. Together." The search became more than just a hunt for jewelry. It became a coded mission, one that only they understood. They retraced her movements from the week before, the restaurant where she'd met her friends, the studio where she filmed, even the quiet alley where she had walked home that night. What made it more complicated was the secrecy. They couldn't exactly announce to the world that Shu Kai was trailing Tan Songyun through the city, looking for a necklace he had given her. That would raise too many questions neither of them were ready to answer. So, they worked like shadows, moving at odd hours, slipping into places unnoticed, whispering hurriedly in empty corners. One night, their search took them to a hotel. Songyun had stayed there briefly during a shoot, and she was convinced she might have left the necklace behind. With Shu Kai at her side, they managed to charm their way past the night receptionist. But when they finally entered the room, the air was heavy, almost as if the walls still remembered her presence. Songyun dropped to her knees, scanning beneath the bed, while Shu Kai opened drawers and checked behind curtains. The silence was broken only by the sound of their breathing, until Songyun's voice cracked softly. "What if it's gone forever?" Shu Kai crouched down beside her, lifting her chin until her teary eyes met his. "Then we'll buy another," he said gently. "But it won't be the same," she whispered back. And in that fragile moment, he realized it wasn't about the necklace at all. It was about what it represented. But just as they were about to give up, something strange happened. A message appeared on Songyun's phone from an unknown number. "Looking for this?" Attached was a blurred photo, but it was unmistakable, the crescent moon necklace dangling from someone's hand. Her breath caught. Shu Kai's jaw tightened. Whoever had it knew its importance. The hunt was no longer about retracing steps. It had become a chase, a silent battle against an unseen figure. They tried to trace the number, but it led nowhere. Days passed, and the messages continued, taunting them, always accompanied by pictures of the necklace in different places: a coffee shop table, a theater seat, even the edge of a park bench. It was as if the person was playing a game. And Shu Kai hated games. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. While shooting late one night, Shu Kai spotted a familiar glimmer in the crowd. A fan was leaning over the barricade, her hand brushing against a chain that looked far too familiar. His heart skipped. Could it be? After the shoot, he quietly slipped away, following her through the maze of streets until she disappeared into a small second-hand boutique. When he entered, he saw it resting on a velvet tray near the cashier. The necklace. He froze. But before he could step closer, the shopkeeper spoke. It's already reserved. And that's when the truth came tumbling out. The girl explained that she had found it outside the hotel, tangled near a storm drain. She hadn't realized whose it was until she saw online discussions about Songyun's missing jewelry. Instead of returning it, she decided to make a spectacle, teasing her idol with anonymous messages. To her, it was a game of attention. To them, it had been a silent nightmare. Shu Kai didn't argue. He simply paid, collected the necklace, and left without another word. When he returned it to Songyun, she broke down not from relief alone, but from the emotional storm that had been building all along. She held the necklace against her chest, whispering, "I thought I'd lost more than this." Shu Kai pulled her into his arms. "You'll never lose me," he murmured. And though the world outside would never know what that necklace meant, for them it was more than a piece of silver. It was proof of everything unspoken, everything they had fought to protect. The necklace wasn't just found, it became a secret promise, one that only they carried in their hearts. And so, the story of a missing necklace turned into something far bigger, a secret search, a hidden bond, and a moment neither of them would ever forget. To the world, it was just jewelry. But for Shu Kai and Tan Songyun, it was the thread that tied them closer than ever, in ways the public might never fully understand. Because sometimes, it's the things that go missing which reveal the truths we try hardest to hide. The necklace's disappearance was no ordinary loss. To outsiders, it might have seemed trivial, just an accessory. But to Shu Kai and Tan Songyun, it was the fragile thread tying together 1,000 unspoken moments, and now that thread had snapped. The days following its disappearance were a blur of hushed conversations, late-night calls, and carefully masked emotions in public. Songyun, though usually radiant on set, was distracted, her eyes often drifting to her empty collarbone as if searching for something invisible. Crew members whispered about her change in mood, unaware of the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. Meanwhile, Shu Kai, though filming in another city, was restless. He played his roles flawlessly on camera, but the moment cut was called, his phone was in his hand, waiting for updates from her. Every missed call from Songyun sent a spike of panic through him. He couldn't explain to anyone why a simple necklace mattered so much. He didn't want to. It was theirs, and theirs alone. Finally, unable to endure the distance any longer, Shu Kai decided to leave. His team thought he was heading for a scheduled meeting, but instead, he boarded a train under the cover of night, dressed inconspicuously. He had only one destination, her city, her apartment, where she had been desperately searching for days. When he arrived, what greeted him was not the cheerful, composed Songyun the world knew, but a woman torn apart by frustration. Her apartment was chaos. Clothes spilled from open closets, books lay in piles, drawers stood half open as if ransacked. In the middle of it all stood Songyun, her hair disheveled, her face pale, her eyes red-rimmed. The sight cut deep into Shu Kai. He closed the door softly behind him, his voice low but steady. "Songyun, you'll drive yourself crazy like this." She turned to him, and for a moment, the mask she always wore in front of others crumbled. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I've looked everywhere, Shu Kai. Everywhere. It's like it just vanished." Shu Kai stepped forward, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. "Then let me help you. We'll find it together." And so began their secret search. Their investigation wasn't a simple retracing of steps, it was almost like solving a puzzle, each clue leading them to the next. They made lists of every place she had been, every outfit she had worn, every moment she might have taken the necklace off. The details blurred between professional and personal dressing rooms, cafes, quiet corners of sets where they had shared hurried meals between shoots. The secrecy made it harder. They couldn't just call in help. If staff, fans, or the media caught wind that Shu Kai and Tan Songyun were spending hours together outside of work, questions would ignite like wildfire. So, they worked like fugitives in their own city, meeting at odd hours, slipping into alleyways, disguising themselves with masks and caps. One night, their search took them to a tiny restaurant where Songyun remembered adjusting the chain around her neck before dinner. The owner, an elderly woman, welcomed them warmly but shook her head after hearing their request. "I keep lost items in a box near the counter," she said, showing them trinkets and forgotten scarves, but no silver crescent moon. Disappointment etched across Songyun's face, but Shu Kai reached for her hand under the table. "We're not done yet," he murmured. And though the world outside knew him as the confident star, in that moment, he was simply a man refusing to let her fall apart. The search grew stranger as days passed. Anonymous texts began arriving on Songyun's phone, short and cryptic. "It's not lost. Are you sure you want it back?" One night, she received a blurry photo. The crescent moon pendant was unmistakable, dangling from someone's hand. Her stomach dropped. She showed Shu Kai, who immediately clenched his jaw. "Someone has it," he said firmly. "And they're playing with us." Their hunt took on a new urgency. This wasn't just about retracing steps anymore, it was about following a trail left by someone who seemed determined to toy with them. The messages came at random hours, each one accompanied by another photo: the necklace on a park bench, the necklace resting beside a coffee cup, the necklace held up against the city skyline. It was maddening. Whoever had it wasn't trying to sell it or hide it. They wanted attention. Shu Kai grew protective. He walked her home after late shoots, his eyes scanning every passerby, every shadow. "They're watching you," he warned her one evening as they hurried through dimly lit streets. They wouldn't send these photos if they weren't close. For the first time, fear crept into Songyun's voice. "But why me? Why us?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. The truth was, he had given her the necklace. If someone knew, if someone was deliberately teasing them with it, it meant their secret, their bond, might no longer be safe. The tension reached its peak when Songyun almost broke down on set. During a break, she sat in her dressing room, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her hand lifted to her bare neck again and again, as though searching for comfort. Shu Kai, who had managed to slip in unnoticed, watched her silently before stepping forward. He placed his hands on her shoulders, his voice a whisper only she could hear. "We'll get it back. I promise you." She looked up at him, her eyes wet. "And if we don't?" He leaned closer, so close that the world outside ceased to exist. "Then I'll buy you another. And another. Until your whole life shines with them. But nothing will take away what it means between us." Her tears finally spilled over, but for the first time in days, she smiled. The necklace was still missing. The search wasn't over. The anonymous texts hadn't stopped. But something had shifted. What began as a frantic hunt for a lost object had turned into something far deeper, a revelation of how much it meant to them both, and how far they were willing to go to protect not just the necklace, but what it represented. The world still didn't know the truth. To everyone else, they were just colleagues, just stars who happened to cross paths. But in the hidden hours of the night, in the silence of empty streets, Shu Kai and Tan Songyun were something more. And though the necklace was still out there, somewhere in the city, its disappearance had already accomplished something no one expected. It had pulled them closer than ever before, binding them not with silver, but with a promise neither dared to say out loud. Because sometimes, the search itself becomes the story. And theirs was only just beginning. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more dramatic stories that will keep you hooked.